Hey, y'all, what is up? This is Bud Elliott here on the Cover 3 podcast. Not really sure what we're going to call this yet. The opening line, first look at the opening line, maybe a little look ahead to this week's upcoming games. It is Sunday. I mean, a lot of y'all are probably still just watching or listening to our instant reaction podcast last night. This is going to be pretty casual. It's the first time we've done this since the old SBN days when I used to run the Twitch over there. I am just producing it myself on this one. In the future, we might jazz it up with some more graphics and some more things. But in any case, I feel like this will be a pretty fun thing. Just a couple deals. Number one, I do believe that if you're betting college football and you're not a professional bettor, there's no real reason why you shouldn't be getting down on these early lines, right? They move quite a bit. I think you can get a good amount of closing line value, which essentially just means did what you bet, was that better than what the line was at kickoff? So, for instance, if I bet a team at -3 and they close as a 4-point favorite, well, that line that I got was no longer available by the time the game kicked off. So I've achieved some closing line value there. Anyway, I have my sheet. I'm obviously not going to share that because that's proprietary in my opinion. But what we'll do is we'll just take questions from the audience and you guys talk about the games you want to talk about. I'll mark it as talked about on my sheet. And then at the end, I'll discuss the other ones that I am betting. So I got my guy out in Vegas. He has my numbers and a couple of the US-based books are now open. I know Circuit DraftKings opened up as well. So just, start firing away. We'll go down the list and I will, I'll kind of discuss with y'all what I want to do with each game. I've already played a couple and I'll be sharing those as well. All right. First one, let's go ahead and talk about this right here. This is from Mike Doty. And Mike wants to know basically, hey, can't believe the line for UF and Bama was only 15. So interesting here. I actually thought that was a fairly fair line. In the preseason, I played on the look ahead Florida plus 14.5 in the swamp, but obviously we don't know what the status is with Richardson, right? And that's, complicated. So we'll have to figure out. Richardson, of course, is the backup quarterback there for the Gators, who I actually think is the more talented quarterback. We'll see if he ends up being the better QB in short order than Emory Jones. So I'm not going to play anything on this now. I played that in the, obviously in the preseason with the futures market at plus 14.5. However, I did play something else in this. I played the over 56. I think that Bama's offense will score. I happen to think last week they were working on some things that maybe they feel like they don't do very well, and to give Nick Saban something to complain about. So I did go ahead and play the over 56 in that game. I personally, I would play that up to 58, and I made the number 61.5. So over 56 for me, I believe, was value. Had a couple people say, "Is it stuck there in the chat?" As far as I know, it's not stuck. I'm still seeing some comments come in, so I hope you guys are able to see me. Kind of give me that thumbs up if you're still able to see this just fine. Okay. Next, getting a question here about Toledo. So let's see what I do with Toledo. Toledo hosting Colorado State, and that line came out at it looks like 13. I actually think that Toledo is a decent buy spot here. Colorado State last night looked really good ultimately, but then what happened? Then they absolutely collapsed against Vanderbilt rather, and that was poor. So not good there. And I made this number as a buy point. I said to take anything under 14 and a quarter. So Toledo at 13. I do like them at under 13. I'll go ahead and play Toledo under 13. And yeah, looks like we got that. So that is good. All right. Total wise on Toledo, they made it 58. If this creeps up to like 60, I will take the under 60 on that. But ultimately, 58 is not something that I really want to get involved with right this second. So let's go back to the comments here, and we did discuss Toledo, so I will mark that off on my sheet. The next one that people are asking about here, excuse me, sorry, let me make sure I got my correct odds sheet up. And this is just kind of the the issue, of course. Live. Where people are asking about Virginia and North Carolina. That's Virginia at UNC. Most of the books right now have hung 8.5 or 9. Somebody's saying they see 10. I haven't seen a 10 yet. However, if I did see a 10, I would consider that. I would like to play North Carolina at under a touchdown here. I would like to play UVA at 10.5, 11. So for me right now, I will be passing at that number of 9. As far as the spread goes, and apparently it opened 10 at one place, but it's been bet down a little bit. So good chance I won't see an 11 there. It happens, right? And just kind of the perils of when I do the show. I also think that if this gets up to 67.5, 68, it is worth a look at the under. This opened 62, which obviously is great. And that's a pretty interesting number there for the over. All right, let's go ahead and take the next one here. Let's talk about Purdue. So Purdue, 2-0 football team right now. They go to play Notre Dame. Obviously, a game that probably means more to Purdue than it does to mean to Notre Dame. And they opened up 7.5, 8.5 at the different spots that I can see, with a total of 59. So that is actually a no bet for me right now. I would like to play Notre Dame at 6 or better. I would like to play Purdue at kind of 10ish or better, basically, depending on the juice. I think that's roughly my buy point on that game. I don't know the status of some of those Notre Dame guys who missed the game against Toledo. And I think some of those guys are fairly important players. So without knowing that, I'm going to go ahead and pass on the game at this point. All right. Let me see. All right. We want to talk about Cincy and Indiana. This is actually interesting here. So Cincinnati, I'm seeing 4. This is actually a game that I played. Cincinnati +4. I actually took Indiana here. Might surprise some people. I do not think Indiana is quite as bad as some believe, right? But I mean, they're not perfect. Cincinnati's pretty good. Cincinnati did struggle in the first half over the weekend. That's not necessarily something that is indicative of what they're going to do. I also thought 54.5 here was a little bit tall for my taste, and went ahead and played under at the 54.5. So, I just think Indiana's defense is kind of better than that. Their first game total was inflated a little bit because Iowa, obviously had the multiple defensive scores. Cincinnati's offense, I don't really know if I trust their offensive line. I think this game could be kind of a defensive slugfest. I trust Tom Allen quite a bit as a coach. I think the market has adjusted somewhat here on Indiana. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at. Let's see, get some people who have not asked a question yet. Here, this is an interesting one. Penn State was -7.5 summer look ahead against Auburn. FanDuel opened -4.5. It seems cheap for the whiteout. I actually agree that is cheap, and took Penn State here. I think Auburn's a good team. However, I do want to note that Auburn's offensive performance against Akron is not nearly as impressive when you consider that Temple, with a backup quarterback, went into Akron and put up over 8 yards of play before garbage time. Now, Auburn had more than that, but Temple is the same team that had, I think, 2.5, 3 yards of play, if I recall, against Rutgers to open the year. And they just absolutely housed Akron. It may be possible that Akron's defense is just, horrendously bad. And I think that's problematic there. So for me, I think Penn State is the play here in what I project to be a fairly, low scoring game. I I made it 52.5. It opened 53.5. So no play for me on the total, but Penn State for me is the right side there. I think that they will be able to handle Auburn for the most part, although I do really respect the speed on the back end of Auburn's defense. All right, chugging right along here. If you guys like this, if you don't, cool. Again, if you guys are asking questions about stuff we've already talked about, I will just direct you to the archive video of this on YouTube, so you guys can go watch the replay. That's where it'll be on the Cover 3 Podcast YouTube channel. So, Scott Cromwell, Alabama, Florida, already discussed that one. And we just talked about Penn State, Auburn. Okay, let's go here. Michigan State at Miami. That's an interesting one as well. I went ahead and played Michigan State here plus the 7.5. This to me is something that I think will move. Again, I'm trying to play all the ones that I think will move. And I actually also played the over 53.5 here. Now, here's why. Number one, I believe that Michigan State is operating at a greater tempo than they normally would. And I think that will lead to some higher possession game here. I think Miami's offensive line is progressively getting a little bit healthier. Additionally, Miami's running backs, their room is not quite as healthy, which means they'll probably have to throw the ball more, which means the clock might stop more and the potential for a higher scoring game. Another point I have here is that Keontre Smith, Manny Diaz head coach, said that the prognosis for Keontre Smith, who was the leading tackler for Miami, I believe, so far in the year, the prognosis was quote unquote not good. So I like the plus 7.5. I like the over 53.5 there. Both those are plays for me. Nevada minus 2.5 at Kansas State. Let's go ahead and discuss this one. So thanks, Caleb. And cool picture, by the way. I like that. The getting under the bar, make that thing bend. Actually, might go get a little bit of a lift after this. Would be kind of cool. So if you guys didn't see, Kansas State's quarterback went down yesterday with what looked to be potentially a serious injury. I'm not a doctor, but you have to adjust your power ratings pretty significantly, in my opinion, for Kansas State. My number on this game, I think that the 3 is getting up to a point where it's a little bit aggressive, but it's been bet up. The backup for Kansas State is not a good player. We talked about this a lot in our Big 12 preview for the Cover 3 podcast. And ultimately, that's just not it's not a situation where you want to be betting on Kansas State at a number that implies the need to win the game, because Nevada does have Carson Strong, who's a pretty dang good quarterback. Now, on a pure numbers basis, right, if this gets to like 5 or 6, I probably need to go ahead and just pop Kansas State. I do project this to be a lower scoring game. The total on this game now is 49. It actually opened 55. I did not get any of that. A couple of these openers I got in pretty nice, but check what we have back so far. I did not get into that under 55.5. So disappointing there. But again, that only lasted for 2 minutes out in Vegas. So if y'all are one of those dudes who got that, congratulations. Then it got bet down to 52, 49.5. Then another huge undershot, 46.5. And then some money came back to make it over, under of 49. To me, 49 is not a number I want to be playing under on, but 55.5 would have been. So congrats to whomever popped that. I hope you guys are enjoying this, or at least finding it somewhat helpful. Again, this is the first time I've done this in about 2 years, and so any kind of feedback is always pretty welcome. Let me take a sip. Cool. So the C. Kemp wants to know about the Tulane and Ole Miss over-under. Interesting here. So depending on what power rankings you use, or if you make your own, they might really, really love Tulane because of what Tulane did, obviously, to Oklahoma in that opening weekend. And pretty impressively so, for having to live in a hotel, in Birmingham, and evacuate due to the hurricane. Still, do I really trust Tulane is that good? I think Pratt is pretty damn good, the QB, but I'm still a little bit skeptical. Now, I think, honestly, that there could be some value in Tulane here, but I don't think it's going to go the way I think. I don't think it's going to go necessarily away from me here. I think this thing could actually hit 17. Right now, it's sitting 15 at most of the places I'm looking at. That's fine. If I see this start to go, I might grab a little bit of Tulane, but it's not something I'm really reaching out and wanting to bet. 73.5 is the number that I made for the game. Thus, when I'm betting these, look aheads, I want to take like over 68, under 79, things like that. I see 73 is the number. So for me, that's just a no play. All right. Cool. Let's see. What else do we have? Stanford -2.5 or -10.5. Is it too high? No, it is actually not. And that actually opened up at 9. I think Stanford -10.5 is an absolutely fine play here. I did watch Vanderbilt last night. Congratulations to the Fighting Barton Simmons. However, there's an important QB thing to note here. And in college football, I don't usually make big time adjustments for injuries unless it's like a really important player. But I do think it's important to pay attention to quarterbacks because like in the NFL, the drop off from QB1 to QB2, it's important if you have a superstar. But other than that, like everybody's a professional. In college, I got to tell you, it's really not. There are some major differences. And Tanner McKee was a former kind of almost 5-star recruit who Stanford had. And for some reason, maybe he's a bad practice player or whatever. I really don't know. He did not play much in that first game. He played last night. He lit up USC. He looked really good. Stanford seems to have maybe hit its groove there. Of course, body clocks and all that stuff shouldn't be in play here because it's an 8 p.m. Eastern kick. But I did not get into that -9. I did get some of the 10.5. So I like that there. I think this number should be more like 16.5, 17. So obviously at 10.5, I'm going to play it. For the total, I made it 50.5. So to me, that's not really anything that I want to hit. Cool. Mitchell Vahalik wants to know what concept / advanced analytics do you use to drive your power rankings? So obviously I'm not going to give you the exact thing I do because otherwise, like I wouldn't be doing this, right? I would just give it away and then I would probably be out of a job. Not that I'm, the be all end all. Certainly, I think I do a decent combination of media skills along with analytic skills and actually watching the game. And it does help to have seen these guys as recruits too. So you sort of think, okay, this guy's flashing. He actually had some serious potential as a recruit. That's it can be helpful to kind of know, maybe what's coming. Anyway, I think Bill Connolly's SP Plus is great. If you don't pay attention to that, you are not doing your job because the market will move whenever Bill releases those. I do know, by the way, and this is important, a major data provider did not finish all the stuff last night because a lot of the schools are having problems with their new data provider that sends the data to a lot of places. Anyway, so yeah, that's something to note there. So a lot of these, I think these numbers are going to move quite a bit, is what I'm saying. These power rankings they're going to change, but I do use SP Plus. I actually think if you know how to use it right, there's some value in FPI, even though overall it's not super predictive from a spread basis. And then I make a couple of my own stats using our True Media portal here on CBS. And yeah. All right. So questions about Virginia Tech. This is one, or excuse me, let's take Ohio first. I did play Ohio plus the 22. That to me, I mean, I don't know why that hung around for half an hour like it did when it opened up. I think anything 20 and above is worth a shot there. Oh, sorry. Let me remove that comment there. Anyway, yeah, I mean, look, Ohio is not a team that's going to play at a very aggressive tempo. Louisiana is, I don't think they're a bad team, but look, they got housed by Texas. They did not play very well yesterday versus an FCS team. They don't throw the ball explosively. I don't really, maybe I'm missing something with that line, but to me, Ohio plus 22 makes a hell of a lot of sense there. So, I mean, that's what I did with it. Let's take a look at a couple of other ones here, and I'm going to take a second to look at a little bit of line movement as some of these offshores begin to open up. All right. So what do we have here? Yep, a couple more. Couple more places are opening up. I didn't do anything with the total on Louisiana and Ohio. I think that's mostly fair. I made it 56.5. It came open 54.5. I think it hasn't really moved. To me, that's pretty fair. All right. What else do we have here? Vatech. That is one that I'm actually kind of excited about. I think Virginia Tech is a team that's pretty solid on both lines of scrimmage. Like am I missing something here? I bet Vatech +3. I must be missing something. I also think, and I don't love West Virginia's offense, but like I played the over 47.5. So, we'll see on that. My main thing is Vatech doesn't play that fast. West Virginia, I think, would like to play a little bit faster. And, that to me doesn't scream like a dead under. I made this number 54. So to me, going over, over the 47.5 made a decent amount of sense. I do think the Hokies can win the game outright. I'm impressed by the Hokies defensive line. That's, to me, that's pretty solid. All right. Mississippi State -3.5 looked good Saturday. Let's go ahead and take this question and get this one out of the way from Ethan, right? Actually, don't know what we got down on this game. So and looks like we have basically nothing on this game so far as I can tell. Mississippi State is playing at Memphis. I do think this game's going to be played at a pretty fast tempo, and it's one that I almost don't trust my number. I have Memphis as one of the highest tempo factor teams out there at all. I know we had a question in the chat, do you ever not bet something even though your number suggests to bet it? Yeah, this actually, the total here was a cross off. So I made this total 58, and to me, it suggests that something's not right. Okay. It can't be. So I'm not going to take this total right now. Maybe it'll go under, maybe it won't, but Memphis's defense was pretty bad last night, but their offense, it did look amazing. NC State's offense looked kind of poor. If this number gets up to what's our buy point? If this number hit 4.5, 5, I probably would go ahead and take a piece of Memphis, but I'm not going to. Do I have a site that aggregates lines for multiple books, or just have them all open on various tabs? Good question, Chris. I actually do have a site. I don't think it's a competitor. So I think Wager Talk has a pretty good odd screen. So does Sportsbook Review. They're also one that I like a decent bit. All right, let's go ahead and Purdue, Notre Dame. We already discussed that one. Again, JJ, if you guys are just joining the feed, just go back and take a look at at the thing. Scroll around. I'm trying to include the questions so that when you're scrolling, you can see it up on the screen. And that should be fine there. Advice on getting a worse number than what you post. Well, basically, just I'm trying to tell you guys, I would bet this until a certain point. I feel like that's a good way to do things, right? To if I got half point better than what you can find, if I tell you, hey, I would play it to X, then that should be helpful. I would say, right? I don't know what the best way to do that is. Okay, what else do we want to talk about here? We just talked about that. I'll go for probably 45 minutes or until people are out of questions, whichever comes first. Northwestern -2.5. Let's go ahead and discuss that. I appreciate y'all asking question there. For me, that's a no bet. I understand the way it is, but I don't really want to get down on Northwestern -2.5 there. Duke did look better offensively. I do not trust Northwestern at all to lay points on the road. Total wise, I made this 48.5. It opened 49.5. So right now, that's a total pass for me. If this gets to 4.5 for Duke, I would play that. But I'm not going to be laying points with this Northwestern team on the road. I really appreciate you guys sending in these questions. Michigan NIU. Here's another fun one. I mean, maybe not that fun, but Michigan NIU. Where are we at here? So Michigan coming off a big game against Washington. I will say NIU is one of my most improved teams on the year, and this bears watching. I actually think if this ticks to the 28, I will fire on NIU. NIU is a pretty improved team, but one thing I did get here, there's a 55 out there. Took a little piece of that on the under, so I think that is worth a look. Michigan not playing very fast this year. NIU is playing kind of fast, but not crazy fast. So under 55 for me was something I hit here. I didn't go crazy on it, but I did take a piece of the under 55. All right. I already went over Miami, Michigan State. I'm on Michigan State, but that's at above a touchdown. Obviously, I don't like it quite as much, at 6, but I'm not trying to play Miami there. If it got down to like 4, I would take a look at Miami. Already did Purdue. I'm not going to play USC Georgia right now at all because I don't know what the status is, literally, of both starting quarterbacks. For me, that's too much uncertainty. I try to play these things I feel good about, not the ones that I don't. And they're just like, what's the advantage? I could make a really good number and then find out that one quarterback's playing and one quarterback's not. And then it's just kind of flipping coins, right? So to me, there's no huge advantage in doing that. Let me see, what else do we have here? I know I've probably missed some. Is Oklahoma plus 22.5 too low? So let's make sure we got the current lines on this, figure out what I got. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Apologies. Sorry. It would help if you type in the name of the team as opposed to just typing in the name of the website. All right. So Oklahoma. I made this number 21.5. If it gets down to like 19.5, I would play Oklahoma. Honestly, I really don't want to play Nebraska because I do feel like they have kind of bottom out potential. So I'm not in any kind of rush to play this, obviously, at that number. Oklahoma just has not looked super sharp so far against teams with a pulse. Like, they crushed Western Carolina, but are they clicking? Look, maybe I should be betting this. Maybe I'm dumb for not betting this. I just don't. I don't think that's. I don't think that's something I need to be rushing to bet. Now the total is also boring to me because I made it 60.5, which is a no bet. Okay, UCF and Louisville. Did we already discuss this? For some reason, I marked it as we already discussed it, but I don't actually see that we did. What did I play here? Oh, Louisville plus 9. So, look, this is probably something where my line is bad, but I had to go ahead and play it, right? I'll fully admit, if you guys want to wait for a 10, I don't hate that idea, right? But realistically, I mean, I went ahead and played the Louisville plus 9. I make the line 6.5. I think Louisville's a little bit better than what it showed against Ole Miss. I think that Scott Satterfield actually can coach, assuming he hasn't actually lost the team. So, that's worth something right there. I think UCF will play reasonably fast and will try to hit some explosive plays. I don't know if I love Louisville's defense still. And I mean, UCF seemed to kind of hit a stride a little bit after a little bit of a suspect start. Also, I played the over 66. So I made that number 71. Again, could be wrong there. I think we're going to get a decent number of points out of Louisville here. And I do think UCF will score. All right. Two things. No chance FSU makes a bowl, right? Miami a bit low against Sparty, right? Yeah. So my updated number on FSU is 3.9. Oh, somebody's at my door. Great. Sorry about that, y'all. Anyway, my updated number on FSU is 3.9. So they would need to exceed that by 2.1 games, which is unlikely to happen. Here's a question for you. BYU plus 2.5 at home against the Sun Devils, and Boise 4.5 on Smurf turf against Oklahoma State. Yeah, both really good questions. Let's go ahead and tackle Boise first. Cool. So let's figure out what I have here. Where did all this go? Sorry. Cool. Apologies. Right. So Boise currently sitting 4.5 and 57.5 at one spot and 4.5 at the other spot as well. Look, I don't know if you guys watch Tulsa or not, but I mean, if this gets down to 4, that's my buy point on Boise. Maybe I'm going to be dumb and miss that over a half point. But again, like, what's this really going to move to? 7? You know, we'll see. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to sit on that one. Now, as far as the total on the Boise game, 7.5 is exactly what I made it. So no play for me there. The other question I think is more interesting, right? So BYU, I don't really believe in the whole like emotional spot type thing too much. Maybe if you want to add a a half point or something for a better crowd, or I think that's possible, sure. But I don't think it's something that's necessarily has to be done. These kids, I think, are getting better and better at playing in environments all the time. Although with the COVID deal and this being the first year we have fans back, you could maybe make an argument that it is it's more of a change than they're used to at this point. The other thing is that I have no idea what to make of Arizona State, right? I bet UNLV against Arizona State because I thought the number was too high. 35 for me was a nice buy point. But I still think there are like potentially some real potential there. How do you handicap that with what's going on with that coaching staff? Are they going to have their running backs back this week? I don't know. I really, what I did here was I wanted to get a field goal at home with BYU or a field goal at home with Arizona State. I think the game is just a straight pick 'em. So at 2.5, I'm not going to buy anything. If this does get to 3, I will go ahead and take it. Total wise, I made it 51.5. So no play for me. BYU is like slightly below national average tempo wise in my tempo factors. And of course, Arizona State is like, they play about as slow as a 2002 NFL team, right? So yeah, let me see some other stuff that I have here. Talked about that, right? Yeah, we already did Nevada, Kansas State. Fade Colorado State all day. I agree. I already took Toledo. I think that's the right number, or right play there to do. I will say, like, I think Minnesota, Colorado is interesting if that thing keeps going up. I don't really want to play that, but I do think that is something that could be okay at 3.5. Total wise for Minnesota, Colorado, sitting, please, mostly 50.5. I made it 49. So for me, that's a no play right there. Here's an interesting one for you. So if you account for the injuries, Texas A&M, I still can't get to this number. So I went ahead and played Texas A&M minus the 26. And I look, they have the game against Arkansas coming up the next week. I get that. New Mexico was fairly disappointing over the weekend and did not do a very good job against New Mexico State. And I just think Jimbo's going to get Zach Calzada some comfortable throws. So even though I adjusted this team down quite a bit with the backup, I'm still thinking that's what needs to happen. See here. Fresno plus 11 is juicy. I actually agree. I think that's, and I've been like, obviously you guys know me. I've been on UCLA, but Fresno plus 11 is kind of a no doubter for me that you need to play. I think, and the buy point I would stop on that is 10, but I still think at this point, like, what is this going to go to? 14? I mean, maybe this is a situation where you guys have seen the meme and the guy who got stabbed says, what are you going to do? Stab me? But ultimately, I think Fresno plus 11 is worth a stab there. Well, get that? I'll stop laughing at my own jokes here in a little bit. So yeah, Fresno, UCLA. I do like the Fresno plus the 11. That makes sense. Total wise, I think it's spot on. I'm showing 61, 62 at a couple shops. So I appreciate you guys sending that question in. All right. And sorry about that. I didn't put that on screen. Georgia State minus 2.5 is a mortal lock alert. Well, let's talk about this. Is it? Georgia State so far this year, not a very good run defense. Okay. Charlotte. Yeah. I don't see the mortal lock, right? Maybe I should, but I just don't. Maybe I'll be wrong about that. However, one thing I did play in this game, guys, I think this total's bad. I think this thing should be like 67, and it's 61. So I went ahead and fired on that over 61. I like both these teams play with pretty decent pace. Charlotte is below the national average, but not by a ton. Georgia State, 1.12 pace factor for me. I just think this should be like 66, 67, 61 for me. Over is a bet. Blind unders on UW all year. So vocabulary, have we discussed Alabama, Florida? You bet we have. Yeah, absolutely have on that one. Minnesota, Colorado, we already talked about. We discussed Texas and New Mexico. We talked about Cincinnati, Indiana. We talked about Nebraska, Oklahoma. Let's see, West Virginia, Tech. We already discussed Boston College and Temple. Yeah, let's talk. You guys want to talk BC Temple for a minute? What the heck do you do with this line? I made it 18, and that's with an adjustment down for not having Phil Jurkovec, who may miss the game. I don't know. He left the game yesterday with a wrist injury. I feel kind of fortunate to have won that one. I bet UMass. Does UMass cover that if Jurkovec doesn't go out? Probably not, to be honest. But my error bars here are so wide, I really don't want anything to do with this game. I would play Boston College minus the 14. I would need like 21.5, 22, I think, to play Temple. Remember, Temple is also missing their starting quarterback for right now, but we don't actually know. Hey, I tell you what, like you guys talk about Temple, say they're disgusting, and Mike Doty via the comment section. I don't disagree, right? Temple, yeah, they're disgusting. They also won for us last week because you got to be able to separate bad from real bad from like absolutely terrible. And to me, Akron is in that absolutely terrible category. They are horrendous. So yeah. Anyway, total on that game, 59.5. I made it 57.5. So for me, that's just going to be a hard pass. Here's one that I don't know what to do with, right? I mean, I bet it, but like, I just don't know. Am I missing something here? I took the FIU plus 21. That's my buy point. But For a Texas Tech team that, first of all, I liked in week 1. I bet the over on them for the season win total. It didn't look very good last week. Is there any like, am I missing something here that I should know about? Because I really just kind of, and I'm supposed to be the expert, right? But straight up here, I don't see this one. I think this line should be like 16, and it's just not. Vocabulary, yeah, we already discussed South Carolina as well. Just to reiterate, that's a hard pass for me right now because I think both quarterback statuses are pretty much up in the air. Maryland, Illinois is an interesting one as well. Let's go ahead and discuss that briefly. So Maryland is now out to 8.5. It actually opened 5.5. And again, this is one of those ones where I just look, congrats if you got it. My guy did not. Minus 5.5 is what it opened at. That lasted for approximately, looks like 62 seconds. So, I mean, congrats, but I was not able to get down on that. That certainly would have been a bet for me. Again, I try not to post things, you know what I mean, that I don't actually get to bet on, because that's who is that really helping? I made this number 7.25. So if I can get under a touchdown, I would like to play that. If I can get 10, I will play Illinois. I think the total here is actually fairly interesting. It just keeps going up from what I'm able to see, especially in the offshores. I honestly, like, that 59.5 is something I'm going to consider taking to the under. But like, can Maryland push pace? What are they going to do? It's, it's possible. Would I hit Bama UF over 57? Yes, I think I already went over my buy point on that, right? Yeah, I would stop betting the over in Florida, Bama at 58. All right. Let me see here. Any more that we need to discuss? Sorry, guys. I'm just waiting on a couple things to come in. See where we are on some things here. Kansas State did hit 3, by the way, at some of the offshore markets. So that's interesting to keep track of. Anybody actually watch Ball State yesterday? Just curious if y'all saw that game. I did not get to see any of that. So my suspicion is that Penn State just dominated them. Anyway, the numbers on that, I have no value. I make it 5.5 and 53.5, which is, I mean, we're looking at 6, 54.5, 55, 55.5 at the different places that have posted total so far. Did I talk about La Tech SMU yet? Oh, no, I didn't. I did not actually. So this opened at 15, which is exactly what I made it. So go figure. Obviously, I'm not going to be betting on that. Total, I made the total 66.5, and it opened 64.5. It's been bet up about a point and a half there. I mean, look, if I had, like, are we allowed to say gun to the head anymore? If I had to do it for a pick 'em pool, I would go over the 64.5. It's just not something I'll be betting, right this second. So yeah. I didn't get eyes on Buffalo yesterday, and I'm trying to figure out like what I need to do with that Buffalo game. A little bit sketched out there personally. I thought that, like, clearly, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I put out, hey, Joey Galloway is wrong about Buffalo being favored, right? In that thing. But I also don't, like, I didn't think Buffalo is going to be an 11-point dog. And I'm kind of wondering what I'm missing here, because I didn't think Coastal's defense looked all that good, but I did not get eyes on Buffalo yesterday. I've not had time to jump into that box score, so I may just be missing something there. I do try to go over every single box score before I put these things together. And if I don't get to go over a box score and I didn't get to watch a game, I just mark it as a no bet, right? I mean, there's like 60-something games a weekend. I trust my power systems. I trust my manual adjustments, but I want to go over a box score, read the notes, maybe watch the game to make the manuals. And so I don't feel great about that. Let me see here. USC, Washington State. Yeah, I made this number 8, and it's 9.5 right now. So to me, that's no play. It is a brutal loss for the Trojans. I don't think Washington State's defense is any good. I'm probably still too high um, on USC, but I haven't bet on USC either time yet this year. So it's not like I've been so high uh, on USC this year, right? Now I will say this: I was on the Utah State money line and on Utah State against Washington State. So I don't really like. I feel like I've properly accounted uh, for Washington State not being very good. Washington State is going to play Jaden Delora, from what I understand, more as opposed to Garantano. I think that's an upgrade. How much, we'll have to see on that. Thor KU, hey man, appreciate you offering to be a guest. No doubt about it. Could have used a guest last week. I was not good last week, so it's been a really nice year so far. I really enjoyed this. Yesterday was frustrating. I think I was 7-3 in bets that did not beat the closing spread. So in bets that didn't have any CLV in, and then 7-10 in bets that I did have some CLV in. So not great there. Ultimately, couple housekeeping notes: Georgia Southern versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. Yeah, let's good. Or let's take a look at this. Sorry, I need some text here. Anyway, so my numbers on this say something absolutely stupid, and like they're screaming at me to bet Georgia Southern, and I'm just not going to do it at that number. Or excuse me, not Georgia Southern. My bad, guys. Got a lot of numbers across the screen. This is the other one of the week that I really kind of felt like didn't make any sense. I think Arkansas's offense is just better than I'm projecting them. I did not bet Arkansas in week 1. I didn't bet Rice either. I did bet Texas last week. I got a good number on them, a couple points of CLV. Didn't matter. Arkansas crushed them. Georgia Southern has not looked very good so far. For whatever reason, I'm not. From whatever I'm I'm not fully capturing how bad they've been. I will probably consider like a first half play on Arkansas here, given that they do have Texas A&M on deck. But this is one that just the gap is so different that it makes me think I'm missing something. I was actually talking to a pretty famous professional bettor about this a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, I was like, hey, one thing I've noticed is that my very biggest edges, like on the spreadsheet, don't win at the same rate as my second biggest edges. And what I've surmised is that the ones that are really, really, really big edges, it's probably not that I actually have the jump on Vegas and the rest of the world, because I probably don't, right? It's more likely that I'm missing something. And so I have a certain level where I just say, that's a spike. Like I'm not touching that. I need to do more research. I'd rather miss out on the winning bet than just fire because I have the kind of hubris to believe I have like a crazy edge on something. So anytime you think you're like, oh, this is like 10 points off, guess what? Your line's probably off, not the other way around. That's just my opinion on it. This is being bet up, by the way. Like it opened 18. It lasted for 10 minutes. I would have liked to have some of that 18, but again, I spiked it because I knew the number didn't make sense, and you got to have your numbers, ready to go. Does that make sense? Like spiking a game? I hope that makes sense. Hyatt's asking about the total in Michigan and IU. I think we already discussed that. Again, what I'm looking for in IU is the at 28. If I get it, then I'll be on it. It seems to be kind of going both ways right now. There's some books that are showing 27.5. There's some books that are showing 26. So, yeah. Georgia Tech Clemson's interesting. So people want to know about that. Let's talk Georgia Tech Clemson. Yeah. So I made this 28.5. So at 30, I'm not going to play that. You're not really picking up any important key numbers there. And the over-under on this game is 52. I made it 54.5. I'm not really looking to fire on just 2.5 point differentials on totals on Sunday afternoon. Already gone a little bit longer than I anticipated us going. So you guys can fire off a couple more questions. I will go to 55 minutes. Hey, did we talk FSU Wake? I'm surprised I didn't get this one yet. No, we did not talk FSU Wake yet. I'm interested in so what is the real FSU team? Is the team that played fairly well against I think a decent but not great Notre Dame team? Or is the team that kind of screwed around, tried a bunch of new stuff, never put the game away last night, and ultimately had a defense that looked like certain guys were playing cover one and certain guys were playing cover two to allow a 59-yard touchdown bomb to lose as a 27-point favorite to an FCS team? Wake is not so good that FSU can't win that game. Wake should be favored in that game. My number now, because I think this team is interesting. FSU, that is. I made it Wake -6. So if I'm getting more than a touchdown, I might just have to hold my nose and bet it. I do think a fired up, back into the corner type FSU team here could, in theory, be interesting because I do think their defensive line is pretty good. However, I will note Kalen DeLoach, their most athletic linebacker, is out for the first half of the targeting call. And Wake is a team that's going to try to exploit that a whole lot with their RPO stuff. This got bet down like crazy, by the way, from 67.5 to 61.5. Wake Forest, very aggressive tempo. I have them as one of the top 10 tempo teams in the country. I have FSU as, let's see here. Where are they in tempo? Excuse me. I have them at a 1.088 tempo adjustment. So, yeah. To me, that's the current numbers are probably okay. I'm just going to let this thing keep getting bet down a little bit and see what happens. It did take 60. I would probably take an over 60, to be honest, right? Okay, let's see a couple other ones here. And we're getting a couple more questions. Awesome. Will I put up an article soon with your early plays? I will put up one today. I don't know when it'll come out today. I'm going to go take my son to the driving range after this a little bit. He's got a kind of little sweet left-handed swing, and he's down for a nap. So told him, hey, if you have a good nap, we're going to go hit a couple balls at the driving range. Assume it doesn't rain. I feel like in Florida it's been raining like nonstop lately. All right, we already covered Tulane, so nothing there on that for me. Let me see, what else do we have? Nevada, Kansas State, we already covered. We already covered NIU. Buffalo gave up 516 to Nebraska. Run game got only 135 and 33 carries. So yeah, no, I'm not still posting the box score review anymore. It just takes me so much time, and honestly, it did not do the kind of traffic. So from a business perspective, me reading these over, making a couple important notes, and getting out for my own purposes, it's just better business than it is to actually post it up. So sorry about that. It didn't do the kind of clicks that it took me a lot of time, obviously, it's just kind of how it had to deal with that. Hawaii, San Jose State. I don't have it on my sheet. So clearly I didn't code this right to capture all the games, because that's a Sunday game, technically, with a 12:30 Eastern kickoff. So I'm sorry I don't have a number on that. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I'm not going to make one up. Arkansas State and Washington. What did this open at? Arkansas State, Washington. It opened at, you guys are seeing 16.5 out there to bet. I'm not seeing any 16.5. I see some 16s out there, personally. Actually, no, I do see a 17, and that keeps going up. So I think that's something that, personally, yeah, I think that's pretty good. I do like Arkansas State plus 17 there a lot. I really appreciate you guys let me know, because I had not hit that yet. I would actually play that to 15 or 14.5. As far as a total on that game, 58.5, 57. It's weird because the tempo thing and because I really don't know if I can trust Washington's offense. Arkansas State's defense is pretty poor, but then again, Montana held them to 7. They had a lot of their receivers out. I'm going to go ahead and pass on the total a little bit right now because it keeps kind of getting bet down. It was 61.5 earlier. I see a 57 at some places. I'm going to kind of monitor the market. I will likely end up betting over 57 there, which I know sounds crazy, but at some point Washington has to find something that works on offense, right? They can't keep scoring, 7 points. Anyway, Oklahoma minus 23. We already discussed that. Nevada +3. We already discussed that one. So just go back and watch the video for that. Eric, really appreciate you bringing up the Arkansas State one right there. We already talked about Tulane. That's not something I want. Connor J. Cole asked about Cincy. I'm actually on Indiana at +4. I think that this is a decent buy point on Indiana. Indiana fans, told you I don't hate you, right? I like that. If not Young, then who else would be in consideration for Heisman +350? I actually think it could. I don't know. I thought about JT Daniels at 18-1. Could be worth a look, but I don't want to invest in Bryce Young at +350 right now. We'll see. We'll see kind of who else develops out there. All right, guys. That's it for me this week. We're closing in on an hour. Hopefully, y'all give me the thumbs up. Make sure you share this video with your friends. We might cut it into a few segments. We'll see. We'll see what kind of numbers it does, right? I just thought it was kind of a cool thing to hang out on a Sunday. Not a huge NFL fan. I got the TV on in the background, but ultimately, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and we'll do this more in the coming weeks. I don't know what time this is going to be every week. I like to go kind of right now. There is a chance that this goes on a much bigger platform, and if it does, it's probably going to be a little bit later in the day to fill a programming window. So we'll just check that out, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, look, tell your friends, tell an enemy, whomever, and make sure you hit that notifications on YouTube. So every time we go live on Cover 3, you get to check us out. Appreciate it, y'all.